All right, so advanced error handling. Essentially, what I have here on my screen is 4 different purple tools modules, and at the end is a Microsoft Calendar module. So if you saw one of the last videos, you'll know that we went over advanced functions, and so that's where this scenario came from. And what it basically does is it takes a date variable, a time variable, concatenates the two so that we have a date time variable. And what this allows us to do for in the case of the Microsoft Calendar module is there is no where we can customize the time for whatever event we create. And so we can actually group the date and time together and customize them as one specific value or one specific variable. And that allows us to have a customizable start date and time and a customizable end date and time. And so I talked about in the last video about how if you have a negative here as opposed to a positive number here, this will throw an error. And so I'll go ahead and show you guys now. And basically what this does, you'll know that actually, let me go ahead and go into my scenario settings real quick. And this should be no, because what you guys will see is a red bit of text right here. Yeah, just like that. And so the reason that there is an error is because there cannot be an end date time that is before the start date time. So this has to be a positive number. Otherwise, this is going to be, for example, 3 p.m. and this is going to be 5 p.m., right? Because the end date is going to be minus 2 hours because it's an add hour function. And so if this is 3 p.m., which it is, this is going to be going down to or back 2 hours to 1 p.m. And it's impossible for an event to end before it starts. And that's why there is an error thrown. So now what I'm going to show you guys is how to handle these errors. So a few things that you don't want to do, I think this is very important, is once you click on the red exclamation mark here, you'll see that there is an ignore all errors button. That's one way you can handle errors. However, what this will do is it'll just run everything as if nothing happened. And where this can be a problem is if a client or a customer or a colleague or anyone is filling out a form for you, and that form has an end date and start date or end time and start time mixed up. And if that's the case, then what's going to happen is it's going to throw a successful scenario, or the scenario is going to go through as if there was no error, as if nothing ever happened. However, it still will not create an event. And so what you don't want to do is click ignore all errors, because that's not going to help you fix any of your actual problems. Now, another thing you can do is ignore errors of this specific type. So if you keep running into a certain error over and over and over again, and it doesn't really affect your automation, this is perfectly fine to do. What this does is it creates a filter right here, where if the type of error is a runtime error or whatever error you keep running into, linking it to the ignore, which is basically just taking this, right? You go to flow control at the bottom, scrolling all the way down, clicking ignore, and just dragging it into place. What that does is it sets it up so that right now what it does is it ignores all, and by setting up that filter, we can have it so that when the error type equals runtime, you can see right here it says data error. So if that says runtime, what that'll do is it'll ignore all errors of that specific type. But the easier way to do that is to just go ahead and click runtime error. And so by running that, that'll also throw a successful scenario run. However, again, if the same issue does come up over and over, where it's a matter of a client or customer swapping the start date and time, or even any users swapping the start date and time, this is going to be no good. And so something that is very, very useful that I discovered while developing automations is that you can actually go here to flow control. What I did is I clicked pause and I just linked it to the module here, the very last module that keeps throwing errors. And if I run it, you'll see that first of all, the module is not set up, and second of all, it requires storing of incomplete executions to be enabled. And I'll show you why this is very important in a second. So I'll go ahead and set up the break module to just be one attempt and automatically complete execution. I'll go ahead and put yes, and then interval between attempts, I want it to be 10 minutes. And click OK. right? And now once I hit run, you'll see that I have to enable incomplete executions, right? And so basically, once you click that right here, you'll want to click yes. And another way you can do that ahead of time is to just go to your scenario settings and go to where it says allow string of incomplete executions. It should be the third one from the top. So I'll go ahead and click yes. And that's why at the beginning you saw that my text was actually yellow. Because what this allows me to do, once I click this yellow icon and click resolve and save the changes to my scenario, is that it opens up an entirely different version of my scenario. However, it's not the same. You'll notice that there are some things that are grayed out and I can't edit information. The only thing I can actually edit is the module that's causing the error, which is extremely useful for pinpointing why things are not working within your automation. So now I can see, okay, it has to be something with this selection of settings right here. And so I can see this and go, oh, this is not supposed to be a negative. It has to be positive for a 2-hour long event. So once I hit OK and I save that and run it, you'll see that now it is a success and the incomplete execution was a success. And now there'll be a check mark. It'll be perfect. It'll be as if there was never an error in the first place. And so that is a very, very useful way that you can go ahead and you can correct errors within your scenarios. So now if I go here, I can actually go to the scenario in question. You'll know it's the same one because I can actually edit all these different modules. And I can go here, recreate the exact same change that I made prior. And now it'll run no problem. I can even get rid of this. And like I said, it'll run no problem. So that's hopefully a comprehensive understanding, or I'm sorry, that's hopefully a comprehensive overview of advanced error handling.